Welcome to Limbo. I'm in a good mood today. You can tell because I'm wearing the white Cabela's shirt and the white Bass Pro Shops hat. So, before we begin, I gotta start with a genuine thank you to everyone. The Wilbur Soot fan fiction video popped off against my better wishes, and the reception was unlike anything I could have expected. Y'all are amazing for real, and I can never express my appreciation that you all enjoyed my videos. Special thanks to 3-Day Charter on Tumblr, who made this delicious fan art of Red Elk. I mean, look at this. There is actually no way I could ever express my gratitude. I just started this channel to mess around, waste time, and share things that I found funny with my friends, but now it's reaching the world, and the world likes it. It feels amazing. Okay, but enough fawning from me, let's get into the video. In honor of one of my recent videos on the game Ponytown, I have a little something special for y'all, in the worst way. And it's something a little bit different. Someone once asked, why do children's shows have the darkest fandoms? And I think the best example of this is the My Little Pony fandom. Beyond bronies having high rates of something that I'm going to call criminal tastes, the endless drama in real life surrounding this fandom, and the fact that children can't look up their favorite show because of these degens. No, seriously, one of the first times I ever saw graphic drawings was a gore gif of Pinkie Pie getting skull-fucked when I was 10. My Little Pony also has a graphic writing fan base. One well-known example of this is the dark and gory fan fiction Fallout Equestria, which, at a word count of 620,000, is almost as long as the Bible. And yes, I have read it all the way through, and yes, I do have to admit it was actually pretty good, despite the fact that this story and my stupidity is the reason why Wattpad is banned at my old high school. Today we are going to be looking at one of these types of stories, a My Little Pony creepypasta named Cupcakes. So, what layers of hell does this belong in? I'm never going to get this out of my head. This is well up there on the worst things I've ever read, and not in the poor writing way either. Cupcakes is, according to most sources I've seen, considered one of the more infamous fanfics in the My Little Pony fandom. I include the layers of hell things in the beginning of these videos as a pseudo trigger/content warning, but I'm going to give you another much more explicit one here. This is bad. I'm going to tone it down significantly in my retelling, as I do, but it still includes graphic descriptions of torture, cannibalism, and psychopathic/sadistic behavior. You do not have to watch this video. I have way more tame ones that you could go watch instead. Past this point, you waive any right to get mad at me. Here we go. The story starts with Rainbow Dash exercising in the clouds when suddenly she remembers that she had agreed to meet with Pinkie Pie for a one-on-one fun day. When she catches up with Pinkie, she's quickly put off by her suspiciously overly happy demeanor. Dash shakes this off, figuring that she was just excited because she had something really fun planned. But when she asked what they were going to be doing, she was quickly disappointed. They were going to be making cupcakes. Dash reluctantly agreed for the sake of her friend, and Pinkie offered her a cupcake for taste testing before they went out to make more. But wouldn't you know it, the cupcake was drugged, and Dash passed out. What a good start to this story. When she awakes, she's in a dark room tied to an operating table, unable to move anything besides her wings. Shortly after, Pinkie walks in with a cart covered with a sheet. Dash, in a panic, asks Pinkie what happened to making cupcakes, to which she responds that Dash will be making the cupcakes, as in she will be made into cupcakes. The cupcakes that Pinkie sells to the entire town. The cupcakes Dash has eaten. Dash laughs this off, thinking that it's just a really elaborate prank by Pinkie. But as Pinkie grabs a scalpel and flips on the lights, revealing a horrific scene, organs pumped full of helium being used as balloons, entrails strewn across the room as streamers, and probably most horrifically, 4 full skulls with their own skin formed into party hats sitting on their crowns, she realizes that it is in fact not a joke. Okay, since I'm a little bit of a stickler, I just have to point out you would absolutely not be able to use organs as balloons. One, they're too heavy, all of them, even including your lungs. And two, diffusion would be too high for them to be floating for very long either. But regardless, back to the story. Dash finds that she recognizes one of the foals and that she's actually in very deep shit. When she turns back to Pinkie, she's wearing a coat made out of the flanks of ponies she has killed. What a lovely little inclusion there, huh? Dash begs Pinkie to free her, but to no avail, as, like a convoluted scam center, the number is randomly generated and it just happened to be Dash this time. So it's just business that Pinkie has to kill her and turn her into cupcakes. Pinkie, done with this conversation, moves to Dash's flank and begins an incision, a cut around her cutie mark which she rips off and shows to a revolted and agonized Dash. She grabs a butcher knife next and moves to Dash's wings, cracking jokes the whole time. But after multiple hacks at her wings, she realizes that the blade was too dull and grabs a hacksaw instead. I will read this next scene verbatim. Pinkie placed the tool over the mangled flesh of the last attempt. Standing on her hind legs, she worked the saw back and forth with her front hooves. It sliced effortlessly through bone and skin. The feeling of the jagged teeth grinding into her made Dash want to vomit. She watched numbly as her wing flew over her head and landed with a fluff on the table. Pinkie moved to the next wing and started sawing. Dash didn't struggle this time. She had given up trying to fight and focused on choking back screams of agony. Abruptly, the sawing paused. Pinkie was only halfway done, the wing hanging on by a sliver. "Hey, Dash!" Pinkie piped up. "Think fast." Suddenly, Pinkie yanked the wing as hard as she could. The bone snapped, but the blue pony's skin held, then tore away. The pull ripped away a long strip of flesh all the way down Dash's back to her rump. Let that sink in.
Why, thank you, kind sir.
Outdated internet humor? Check. Okay. How are we feeling? Because at this point in the story, I was wondering if it was even worth it to make a video. Oh well, it's too late now. Let's continue. This action, mercifully, causes Dash to pass out and, well, have other bodily functions, which, if you are an EMT or a hunter, you probably know about. It's not something that you really see even in these types of stories, so I don't know, and I don't really want to know, how the fuck this author knows. Dash wakes up with a start, adrenaline needle sticking out of her chest. Pinkie wasn't done and immediately launches into a tirade, yelling at Dash for being a bad guest and falling asleep while she's doing her thing, accusing her of being a baby and that foals had lasted longer than her, which is just fucking insane. But then you wouldn't expect anything less from somebody this off their gourd. As she's doing this, Pinkie pops a piece of her leg into her mouth and eats it. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Seeing that Dash noticed, Pinkie offers a piece and, without waiting for a response, shoves it into her mouth, which Dash rightfully spits out. I wouldn't want to eat a chunk of my own flesh either. Pinkie is annoyed by this again and says, "If you didn't want any, you could have said no," and eats that piece as well. Now, for Pinkie's next trick, she grabs a nail from a can filled with red-hot coals. If you think you know where this is going, you are right and wrong. Predictably, Pinkie hammers the red-hot nails into Dash's hooves, and then, in a twist, attaches them to batteries. Dash passes out again. But it's not over. No, of course not. After 5 minutes of electrocution, she comes to again. This time, in what appears to be an act of mercy, Pinky uses an anesthetic to numb everything below her ribcage. I should mention, in exactly the medical way that a spinal anesthetic is applied. Hell, it even seems like she did it better than my doctors did. Fucking medical professionals destroying my T4 nerve root, leaving me permanently numb through my pec. Unfortunately, what appeared to be an act of kindness is just another sick and twisted way for Pinky to keep her victim alive longer. I'm going to significantly abridge this section by saying that Pinky opens up Dash's chest cavity and plays with her organs in front of her while cracking morbid jokes. Dash slowly slips away from blood loss and shock during this horrid show, but as she slips from consciousness, Pinky hits her with another adrenaline shot. Knowing that she was dying soon, Pinky chastises Dash again for being weak, and while ensuring that Dash is alive and feeling everything, cuts her face from her skull. And with that, Dash dies. After she dies, Pinky finds herself feeling proud yet sad that her friend had died. And the story ends with her realization that Dash's body isn't gone and she has good sewing skills. And that's enough for her. So, you feel sick too? I warned you, did I not? In all honesty, this story, actually fucked me up. I don't show it because I put on a mostly fake personality for these videos, but it did. Now, admittedly, I am a fairly sensitive person, so that's not too hard. I mean, the movie A Dog's Purpose makes me cry every time I see about it, and sometimes when I think about it, too. But the biggest issue with this story for me is the fact that it's scarily accurate. I'm a biology student and a hunter, so I have seen my fair share of death and internal organs, and I had a hard time finding faults with the descriptions in this story. Not just with anatomy either, the involuntary reaction to the flesh to this kind of torture, but also Dash's reaction to it is way too real. Often I'm able to be like, oh, I wouldn't do that, stupid fucking protagonist. But if a good friend of mine offered me a cupcake as a taste test before baking said cupcakes, I would trust them. And if I woke up on an operating table, I would also probably think that this was an elaborate, if heartless, prank. The concept as a whole and Pinky's approach to it is just awful as well. I can't think of another literary work that accomplishes this off the top of my head, and this is a fucking My Little Pony fanfic. The story of Sweeney Todd is somewhat like this one in the concepts of killing to make food from human flesh. A sick and vile story in its own right, but while what he did was depraved, the killings weren't well thought out, not this glorified, not this long. What Pinky did in this story served no agenda, no good. It was purely vile for the sake of pleasure for one person, Pinky, who got off to it. The closest real world tie that I can think of would be Jeffrey Dahmer, but since this is fiction, it can't really be compared, can it? So you may be asking, what kind of sick fuck wrote this? The author of the story is an enigma. I can't imagine that anyone who writes something like this is right in the head, but by all the digging I've done, and I have done a lot, more than any other fanfic I've covered to date, this guy just seems to be a fairly normal person who decided to write something sick. Unfortunately, I can't find much on this person. They have a DeviantArt under the name Drecker Jones, and they also go by Sergeant Sprinkles, but they seem to have completely disappeared off the face of the earth, as their last post on DeviantArt was dated to January 10th, 2012, chastising somebody named Derpy for taking claim of their works. Prior to this, they had been posting frequently, and then they just stopped. Even stranger is the fact that their art on DeviantArt, for all intents and purposes, is pretty normal, if juvenile, for a fan page. There are a couple of literary works on their DeviantArt, but they are very tame and again, very juvenile. Like maybe their short story, Gummy's Lunch, is odd, but it's not horrific like this one is. That's what makes this story all the more strange. There is nothing suggesting that this person is capable of writing such a thing. So, where is this person today? Well, like I said, I did way too much research, and I could not find the 4chan account on which the original story was posted, but with their only other social media being the dead DeviantArt account, I thought this meant that they had decided to rebrand or leave the internet, but I actually found an interview with them that is dated to August 31st, 2013. In this interview, they mainly troll the interviewer. However, we get some idea of the mindset of this person. In the interview, they say that the story was written to parody the fandom, and that they wanted to write a horror comedy. Nowadays, or in 2013, they said that they weren't really into pony gore anymore, and they said that, to be honest, I think I screwed up. I meant to be funnier. I wanted it to be gross, scary, and uncomfortable, but ultimately, it was supposed to be silly. A similar sentiment of what appears to be regret can be found in a post on their DeviantArt saying, "What did I do?" But if you ask me, the regret isn't in the writing of the story. It's in the fact that it spread beyond the co-board of 4chan, proven by the statement, "It grew legs and ran off into the world without me." Today, in 2024, I think that they are truly gone off the internet, at least under the persona of Sergeant Sprinkles. I'm not going to review this story. It's just too vile. I can't in good conscience rate it on the typical rating scale, so here's what I will say. It was good in the sense that it was realistic and the writing was decent for what it's worth. But it was awful, god fucking awful, in the sense that it was sickening and I regret having curiosity. -1 out of 10, please spare yourself and do not read this. That's all I got. I'm going to go back to having nightmares about this now. See ya.